see you again. Thanks for making the time. First of all, correct any errors I have made. This is in federal court in Ottawa, and it is citizens who are applying for, would you call it a judicial review? They're challenging the Emergencies Act on its own basis. Tell me exactly, set the scene for us. Who are these people and what are they arguing?
Yeah, so you've got that right. And it looks like there's 4 cases that have been combined. Two are on behalf of actual citizens in Canada, and 2 are on civil liberties associations. So 2 of those civil liberties associations were involved in the Public Order Emergencies Commission. And then you have regular Canadians that have applied to ask the court to determine whether or not the Emergencies Act was justified.
Got it. Now, I was reading your live tweeting of the hearing, and it sounds like the government's lawyers are trying to head this off at the pass. They're trying to make it so that this matter doesn't even proceed to trial. I understand they're arguing 2 things. First of all, that it's moot, which is a lawyer's way of saying it's over. There's no reason the court should consider it because it's done. Well, it would have been a pretty fast judge who would have been able to meet, in the 9 days or so that martial law was afoot. I don't know if that mootness argument will win. And then the second, and I'm just going by your live tweets here, which I recommend that people check out for this real-time coverage, which is standing, which is if you go to court, you've got to have some connection to the matters at issue. You can't just be a busybody. And it sounds like the government is arguing that the people who are seeking a legal review of this are just busybodies that the court shouldn't give any time to. Does that sum up what was happening today? The government was basically saying, hey, judge, this is all over. This is old news. And these people don't have a right to be here. Let's just all go home and have a beer. Was that what the government was saying?
Yeah, to some extent, exactly that. And, I'm not involved in this legal challenge. I'm just observing. And it was really hard to watch the Crown, the federal lawyers arguing that, especially on mootness. And it was good to see the judge challenge the lawyer there, especially like you said. The Crown kind of suggested that this should have been brought forward earlier and while the Emergencies Act was invoked. And the judge was like, really? You think they should have brought it within the 9 days? Tell me what kind of evidence they would have had in the 9 days. And you're like, come on, Crown. You have to be reasonable to a certain extent. You can't expect regular Canadians to get all this in order to bring a sophisticated challenge to court. And then if you don't bring a sophisticated challenge, then you're being booted on that. So you can't have it both ways. And that seems to be what the Crown continues to argue in these cases. And it's really disheartening to see. Canadians should have their day in court. And why is the Crown so opposed to Canadians having their day in court? It's disturbing to see.
Yeah. Now, tell me about the lawyers arguing the case. You mentioned that you're not a lawyer in the case, you're observing it like the rest of us are. Can you tell us who the lawyers are? Can you tell us a little bit more about the plaintiffs? I ask because sometimes it makes a real difference if the lawyers are experienced, if they're making all the right arguments. You could have weak lawyers that fumble it. I mean, it doesn't all turn on the lawyers, but the lawyers, the clients, the facts, the arguments, these things obviously matter. And then in a minute, I'll ask you to tell us what you can about the judge. So start off, who are the plaintiffs and who are their lawyers?
Yeah, so really good question. And I actually wish I had more on that, but I do know who the applicants are. So it seems to be one nurse that has been very active, started an organization in Ontario. And I don't have the name of the organization down packed, but it was like United Nurses of Canada, something like that.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was just curious if there was anyone famous, like a civil liberties advocate, although you and I could probably count on one hand the number of civil liberties lawyers in this country. Unfortunately, most of them went on a holiday for the last year. And how about on the government side? How many lawyers are there on the government side?
Well, probably a whole team full, but I think you could see 5 or so on the screen. And I'm assuming there's at least double or triple behind the scenes helping. That's how it generally is. So a huge team on that end. And there are some, like I said, some of the civil liberties associations that were involved in the public order emergencies inquiry, like just before today's break, Eva Chipiuk from the Canadian Constitutional Liberties Foundation was up and giving her arguments and doing a great job. Like, some of these people have been on this for a year, including her when she was actively involved in the public order emergencies inquiry. So you have some good lawyers, definitely. Some really interesting arguments were made today. And on the side of the Crown, it was, like I said earlier, a bit disappointing to see that those were the arguments the Crown was making. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think they were incredibly strong, and I don't think the advocacy was that incredible on the Crown side.
That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest, either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gun Show. It's pretty amazing. We rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.